So that way those who aren't here right now will also be able to hear our beginning. Well, welcome to Jumpstart Our Joy. So jumpstart meaning, we can activate our joy and we can get ahead of the things that might steal our joy. And so one of the first things that I like to share is that, I like to engage body and mind. And so it's been a day. And so let's just shake our bodies, shake your hands, shake your body a little bit, smile, forget anything that's happened through the day or anything that could be going on in the election process. We'll just say that once and let it go
Yeah.
for now. um, and let's begin with some introductions. So I'll call out your name, and then if you would share two things. One is something good. So hopefully there's something good that's happened today. It can be big, small, whatever, just something that in your eyes it's something good. And then the second thing is, why are you taking the course? It doesn't have to be any lengthy thing or whatever. It's just I'm curious about what helped led you to decide to take the course. Here comes one more person. So, any volunteers for starting, or shall I just call out a name?
Call a name.
Okay. So, Carol, what's something good and why are you taking the course?
Well, something good is that I was at a networking meeting this morning and I was in my mind to think maybe I'll stop going to this networking meeting because I'm not getting referrals from it and so a lot of guys attend it and it's just so different to the women's group that I attend, right? So I had it in my mind, maybe that's what I'm going to do starting next year. I'm up to get this one. And then at the end of the meeting, two men pulled me aside separately to talk to me about the hypnotherapy that I do and asked me a ton of questions, took my number. We have somebody that we think might be really, you know, ready for your services. So that kind of blew me away. Um, and then the reason to take the course, I think the end of the year, I mean, I for one can feel saturated by the year's events. The summer you get a little lift to your step because of all the sunshine, but then as the daylight changes and the year's rolling out, I don't know, for me, I get tired. I really need the sun for my energy, and I can equate sunshine with joy and an uplifted mood. And it's just that little bit harder when things start to get very dark outside. So I thought this would be interesting to help me retain some of that energy, to feel some joy as the year goes on. And it's
Okay.
a different year too. A lot of people are missing now. And so we're looking at Thanksgiving and Christmas, and things are just not the same as they were a year or two ago. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where I am.
Okay. Well, welcome, Laura. We're doing introductions, so we
Thank
just
you.
started with Carol. So I'll come around each person. We're sharing two things: something good, so it can be big, small, whatever, and why are you taking the course? Just briefly, whatever. Cynthia,
I'm going
something
to start.
good.
Yeah, I'm going to start out with the other one, why I'm taking
Oh,
the
okay.
course. It's because I really want to keep joy at the front part of my mind. I don't want to let it slip. And I attend your classes most weeks and I really enjoy it. And I find that it gives me a little injection of laughter and joy, and I want more of it.
Great. Thank you.
And something something today that happened, and I've got a luncheon date on Saturday, and snap, it just fell into place.
Cool. So, and Cynthia's referring to the other class, it's the laughter yoga. That's every Wednesday night for a half hour. So, Jody.
Hi, everybody. Today was a great day. I voted early this morning, and then I got done with work early and got some of my Hanukkah gifts done because Hanukkah is right around the corner. And I usually have it done in July, and I just don't know what happened. This year just went crazy, and I felt behind, and I'm so glad that part of it is done.
Great.
And the reason I'm taking this class is because really it was because of today. I saw that it started. We were sitting in the Win Luncheon. I happened to look at the date. I knew that was a day to vote. I've been very uptight this year about voting, and I said, why not? Instead of sitting in front of my television, I will sit in front of Christine and be joyful.
Oh, thank you. Um, it's our goal. Heather.
So I am taking the course because I was lucky enough to meet Christine at my first ever Win Cleveland breakfast. And when she gave her 30-second commercial, I'm usually the person that says, no, I'm not going to do an event. And then I'm kind of open to it. But right away, when you described the course, I'm like, you should just do that. Like, no question, no hesitation. So I'm excited about that. And something good that happened today. This is so trivial, but I take joy in the little things, right? I pulled out and defrosted some ham and bean soup, and it was delicious. And that's what I had for dinner.
Oh, sounds wonderful. Perfect for this day. And that's exactly what it is. Joy is in anything and can be that, as you called it, little, but pretty big, I think. Laura, something good, and why are you taking the course?
I'd say the something good is this class. I'm looking forward to it. The last couple years, I've been just trying to, since I'm now retired, trying to focus more on some personal growth than self-improvement things. So this sounds like a good course to add to some other things I've been doing.
Cool. Okay. I was getting distracted. I was writing things down and I realized that, yeah, you answered both questions. I tend to write notes as we go because I want to be able to remember things, and my brain doesn't always do that when I'm in the midst of a class. So, just to share why I'm teaching the course and why now, and someone asked about timing. Well, I had this idea a few months ago, just that whole phrase of jumpstart and that whole essence of how can I share some information. I love to teach. I love to help people, look at their lives in ways of how can they live their best life. So I know some of you know me in different ways and different amounts, so I just want to share a few other things that I believe and that I would hold in this space for our time together. And that's that I believe we always have choices, even though sometimes it may not feel that way. We do. And so that's kind of an underlying theme. And how do we learn to accept that and learn how to navigate through it? And we all have the right to live joyfully. Sometimes we might not feel worthy or deserving, but yeah, it's really part of what I believe we all have a right to have. I believe that we're all the perfect right people to be together. You come from very different backgrounds, and some of you have been in some similar situations together, and some of you haven't. So I'm just really excited. And there are two more people who will be joining us, and at some point, whether tonight or just in the future. So we'll just integrate them right in. And I also believe in lifelong learning for all of us, including myself. So each of you has a rich background and experience. And so as there might be things that you want to share and add to what we're doing, I welcome that. I'll also say from just some housekeeping and general practices, there's no dumb questions. So if you ever have a question or comment, please speak up. I don't tend to do chat. I prefer to have the interactions, give me some hand signal or something like that. Imagine we're actually in the same space together. And let's see, and I do have notes that I refer to, so I don't forget things. The other thing is keeping in mind this is a no judgment time, no judgment zone. So sometimes we might get critical of ourselves or compare yourselves to others. And again, there's no right or wrong. We're all here for similar purposes. And so various times I'll be talking about no judgment about this because sometimes we just have to remind ourselves. I also expect that this would happen, but I like to say it out loud, confidentiality. Of course, we can talk among ourselves, even in other settings about it, but because you may end up sharing some personal things, I like to encourage that respectfulness as well. So any questions from your end before we jump right into jumpstarting our joy? I also want to have some fun as well as being serious about all of this. If you got the play pages, and that's part of my lightheartedness to bring to it. If you printed them out, fine. If not, just know you can take some notes. There are going to be a few times I'm going to suggest that. But at the same time, if you prefer not to do that, you can keep it in your head. That's cool too. You're adults, you can be responsible for however that really works for you. I'm trying to get rid of the superstructure I tended to have when I've worked in corporate training and that sort of thing. So jumping right in then, I like to, when I'm focused on a topic, understand what the topic means from a dictionary standpoint, because it's a starting place. May have my own interpretation. The dictionary can give us, its sense of things, and then I can build upon it. So joy, by the Oxford Dictionary, it's described as a feeling of great pleasure and happiness. Then I looked at the American Psychological Association dictionary. I loved how it described joy as a feeling of extreme gladness and delight or exaltation of the spirit arising from a sense of well-being or satisfaction. And to me, that just feels so much richer as we think about what joy is. And what I found as I've been working in this with my business for a little over a year, when I say the word joy, it's not commonly used except during the holidays. It's like we get greeting cards with joy on them, but we don't really talk about joy very much. We might talk about happiness, but there's a lot about joy. And so as I continue to, look at it, and as we'll learn tonight some different things about it, it's really a quality, it's a feeling. It's similar to love. And we talk about love, and we probably realize we have love for people, love for animals, love for different things. And so there's different types of love. Love really comes from within. It could be you connect with someone and that triggers some of your love, but really love comes within. And I think in many ways joy is the same. It might live within us, and we might experience it as a result of something else. So we'll talk about that. But joy can be anything. It can be those little things, whether it's the frozen soup and something that, just brings out some ease and that good feeling. Joy can happen in just a moment. You're watching the sunset, or you're looking into someone's eyes, or there's just that moment where you feel the joy. Joy can be an event, a wedding, a birth of a child. You might think are real joyful, but it can also be a gathering of people. That something just has that real rich feeling, that wonderful feeling of great pleasure. And laughter. Goodness, my brain just switched on me. So as I learned to laugh about, joy can be an activity that you do. And maybe it's a hobby. Maybe it's an activity you like to go to, whether it's fireworks or dance performances or any kind of a performance. So what is that joy for you? It's very unique to each one of us. Probably as we go through this, we'll find that different things bring each of us joy. And that's what I also love about it. You get to identify what joy is to you. And so whether you've thought about it or not, through this course, you'll get a chance to think about it, particularly tonight. That's really our focus of getting a sense of what joy is and what are some techniques to work with nurturing that. So we are going to start with a guided meditation, and I think some of you might have experienced this at some point. So it's very similar to what I've done at one networking meeting. But in your playbook, if you want to use that, play pages, sorry. If you want to use that, or just afterwards, I'm going to give you time to reflect on the meditation and the things that you experienced. So if you want to jot anything down, you can do that. And during this, if you want to take your cameras off, that's fine. And then I'll end it, give you a few minutes to make any notes, and then we'll resume. So just get comfortable. However that whatever that means to you. And if you want, close your eyes and just relax. And as you relax, notice your breath. Is it fast? Is it slow? It doesn't really matter. Just notice your breath. And on your next breath, take a deep breath, and as you exhale, feel all of your muscles relax. And then breathe again naturally. Relax. Now let's take another deep breath, and as you exhale, feel all of your muscles relax even more, and then return to your breathing. Now think of a specific time, place, or event when you felt joy. A time when you were happy, your heart felt open. It can be a feeling, a moment in time. You could be alone or with others. Just let your mind relax and notice what comes to you. And if more than one thing comes to your mind, choose just one. And be in the experience wherever and whenever it was. As you are in the joy experience, what do you see? Where are you? What are you doing? Or maybe you aren't doing anything, you're fully present, enjoying a moment somewhere. Just notice where you are. As you notice where you are, notice the colors. What colors do you see? Are the colors bright and bold, or softer like pastel? Just notice the colors. Now notice the sounds. What sounds do you hear? Do you hear people? Animals? Do you hear music? Do you hear nature, such as the wind? Notice the sounds. Next, notice physical sensations. For instance, are you seated in a soft chair? Sitting on the warm earth? Do you have any sensations on your skin, such as heat, coolness, someone's touch? Notice any physical sensations. Now notice your feelings. In addition to joy, do you have other feelings? Maybe relaxed, expansive, loving. If there are other feelings in addition to joy, just notice them and be in the experience. And I'll be still for a moment and let you be fully immersed in that essence of joy. Before we leave this experience, know that you can come back to this moment of joy or any joy experience at any time. My wish for you is that you experience joy every day. Now it's time to return to the present moment. So when you are ready, you can take a deeper breath, begin moving your fingers and toes. Gently open your eyes. And then if you want to make any notes, focusing on those sensations, the colors, the sounds, the physical sensations, feelings. another moment or so. So I'm going to invite each of you to share, and this gives us a sense of the different things that have brought us joy. So each of you focused on one thing. So you can briefly tell us what it was, and then just choose one of the sensations, if you will, the colors, the sounds, the physical sensations, but just one of those aspects that that had some meaning for you. So, shall we go backwards from the order from introductions? Laura?
Um, so my thing was watching the sunset, and I think just the colors and the awesomeness of it, and how they can be so different each time, but yet so beautiful.
Yeah, sunsets are great. Thank you. Heather?
So my happy place in the world is Castle Noel, which is, if you guys have never been, it is a huge Christmas museum in Medina. And everything in it is bright and sparkly, and there's Christmas music, and it's just my happy place. So walking through there always puts me in my best frame of mind.
Is that Castle Noel, did you say?
Mhm.
I think I've read about that. So I broke up a moment when I first started listening to you. I'll add that to my list. Thank you. Interjecting. Fabulous. Jody.
Was going to say, because I'm looking directly at her, the last event that I went to Carol, it was dark and it was sultry and the music was so beautiful. It just put me in such a good mood. I was so relaxed. I wish I'd brought my husband, and I was just in such a peaceful state of mind.
Great. Yes. Wonderful. Cynthia.
I remembered something when I was videotaping my son when he was very young, um, kicking a soccer ball for the first time and having so much fun doing it. So I remember the feeling of expansion that I had, because it was just so much joy coming from him, laughter and just discovery and newness. So I felt just expanded.
Cool. Children are magical like that.
Yes.
Carol.
Thought of a time earlier today when I went for a walk with my husband and our dog. And it was just the blue sky and leaves everywhere crunching under our feet, and the colors, the autumnal colors, and just seeing the kind of naivete, the joy in our dog. This is likely her first autumn, and so the innocence of that was just very touching. It was a beautiful little half-hour walk.
Wonderful. The magic of animals, too, and the joy that they can bring. Nature,
Yeah.
the things that have the meaning. So thank you, each of you, for sharing. You were feeling that richness of that joy. And that's, as some of you said, how you want to be able to maintain that. You want to keep that in front of you. Well, the good news is there are some ways we can do that. And one is creating a joy list. So creating, writing down, drawing in pictures. What are the things? You thought of just one thing just now for the meditation, but I bet other things had even started coming to mind. Maybe you had to choose one. And if you give it a little thought, I bet there are more things that you can think about, and just create the list. And so if you want to write it down in your play pages on page 2, you can write down what are some other things that bring you joy, or if you just want to jot it down anywhere. But take a few minutes. What else is it that brings you some joy? I thought I might play some music, but that wasn't what I wanted. So this is giving you a jump start on your list. So one of the things I would encourage you to do throughout the week is add to the list. What are some of those things, kind of any nature, that have brought you joy? Or you could even think about in the future, something that you think would bring you joy. Like, I would love to see the aurora borealis. I would love to visit certain places. So what is it that brings you joy? So this is the kind of list that it's not a once and done. It isn't something you'll do just for the class, I hope. I hope you'll keep it alive, and also to use it even now. So even tomorrow, even yet tonight, you could add to your list. Tomorrow you can look at your list, add to it. So this is one of those ways to keep it alive. It's so easy in life to get caught up into those routines and things that are happening, and we might forget about all of these wonderful moments. And so if you can do your things in your joy list, you kind of forget, oh yeah, I like doing that. But again, we forget. So as you are more consciously aware of what brings you joy, then you can make sure that you're seeking that out more often. So, like, I love to explore, and yet it's very easy to not take time to go to something new, to explore an area. There's lots of chores that need done, there's this and that and the other. So, when we're aware of, oh, yeah, that's really important to me, I can integrate it into my days and into my months. So, that's given us one way to keep it alive. Our next way is having it's clunking around, a joy box. So, what's a joy box? Well, it's any kind of a container that you put things in, or it's just the idea of those things that are the tangible things that have brought you joy. You can like, some of us are more tactile. It's nice to actually pull out a thank you note that somebody wrote to you and read the words again, or a birthday card, or maybe there's pictures of loved ones, or maybe you even have the pictures around your house, or there are objects that you enjoy. This is my little hurdy-gurdy that you are my sunshine. So what are the things that help you feel that joy? So let me ask though, I bet some of you have some boxes, souvenirs, things like that, where you've collected these things. Do you have some containers already of where you put your joy things or souvenirs?
No.
No.
Sort of scattered.
Okay.
I keep them, but they're in different drawers.
Yep. Hey, Molly. So we have been talking about joy. Um, we had done a joy meditation to have a really connected sense of something that brings us joy. Um, and then we were talking about, what are the fact that joy can be so many different things. It can be an event, it can be an activity, it could be, like something like watching a sunset, it can be doing a hobby. Joy can mean anything, and it can mean different things to different people. So I was just talking about if you have objects that represent your joy, could be greeting cards or thank you notes, or just any kind of things that have brought you joy. If we put them in a box, a container, or at least have them around the house so you see them regularly and you remind yourself that, oh yeah, that's what it is, that feeling I get from it. But having the box, you can keep your box somewhere where you can easily have access to it. And similarly, I was just talking about creating a joy list, a list of things that bring you joy. Review that list. So with the joy box, you can open your box, pull out an item, take a few moments and remember that experience that you had, maybe a vacation or reading that card. Your heart opens up and it's really warm because you have such good feelings for this person. So these are some of the ways we can nurture our joy just by paying attention to it and identifying it. So, Molly, welcome. kind of brought you in the middle of this, but I don't know that you know everyone on the call. We
Not
had,
everyone, I don't think.
yeah, we had done a brief introduction and just shared, something good that had happened today. Um, so I know you're joining right in. Would you be willing to share what's something good that's happened today?
Something good that's happened today is that I have been able to work on a project for someone else. So I'm doing something kind for a group of people. It's the seniors on my son's soccer team, and we are surprising them with these posters that we're creating for the awards night. And I had the time and the energy to cut out photographs and find pictures and soccer balls and things like that. So, and it's fun. I find joy in helping other people, as I'm sure that all of us do. And so that was the thing that brightened my day today.
Yay!
Nice.
And what I hadn't shared in the beginning when I was asking each person to share something good, and this is going to be one of the practices we talk about through the class, is, taking those moments to think about what is it that's good about today. You don't have to wait till evening. That's always a good time. But throughout the day, what's something good? It's how we manage our thoughts, which we're going to be moving into, but it's that sense of connecting with those things that keep us uplifted. So, as I was mentioning with the joy list, it's not a once and done. The joy box can be something that you can keep adding to, and the holidays coming up, there could be some great moments, and maybe you want to put them in a special place. Um, or again, maybe places in your home, and just reminding yourself of that, to just notice them and forget what they represent, but taking that moment now and again to connect with the feeling that goes with it. It doesn't just become the background ornamental. Um, Molly, just to help you in that, I know you'll be listening to the recording. So there's a joy meditation, and that'll take you through connecting with one specific instance of joy. And that's kind of was the building place for then creating a joy list and a joy box. And this is actually kind of summarizing this first segment of tonight's class. And I was mentioning actually before about how, maybe we feel joy within, or maybe it comes from outside. What's interesting is the Buddhists believe that joy can both be a state of being and it can be something we cultivate. So depending upon where you are with how you define joy, how connected you feel to joy, there's this whole range and everything's okay. Kind of going back to what we're also talked about earlier, Molly, is a no judgment zone during this class of judging ourselves, or maybe a comment or thought coming to our minds about why someone might do something. So we want to release judgments. And then I also like Thich Nhat Hanh's quote. He says that sometimes joy is the source of your smile, but sometimes your smile can be the source of your joy. And that just has, again, this really warm feeling for me. So just like to share that. So we've really been focused on that joy, really what I would call a heart experience. We're feeling that wonderful, wonderful energy. So we're going to do a big switch. And now we're going to talk about stuff to engage the logical brain. And the reason we want to do that is we want to get your brain and your heart aligned. Because sometimes our brain can jump in or put up the roadblock to our joy. And we want to be able to navigate around any of those possible times that might happen. And so what we're talking about next is energy. So again, I know a few people might have heard pieces of this before, so forgive me for any repetition. But I'm covering it in a little different way too. So energy is one of those things that has a whole lot of science connected to it, but we're not getting into any science. Essentially, everything is energy. We're energy. Our bodies are energy. We have atoms, they're vibrating. I have a hard time comprehending it, but in truth, the table's energy. It's made of molecules, they're moving. I can't see any of that. Plants are energy. Everything is energy. And we're not going to go into any of that science. What I'm getting to is the fact that there's also energy that we can feel, but we can't see. And that's really what joy is all about in so many of our emotions. So just to give a couple examples to, again, getting our logical brain engaged. If we rub our hands together, they create heat, and we can feel that heat, but we can't see it. We have a microwave oven. We put our food on a plate, we put it in the oven, turn it on, and the food gets warm. It's been vibrating those molecules. If we have an EKG, an electrocardiogram, it's actually measuring the electrical signals of the heart. So who thinks of your body as having electrical signals? Well, but that's what the EKG is measuring. So there's a lot of this energy that we don't see, but we really do feel. And so bringing this into our day-to-day living, I bet there have been times when you've walked into a restaurant or a room or a space, outdoors or indoors, and you go, oh, this feels really good, right? Have you had those times? Maybe you walk into a space and you have the opposite. Oh, I don't really like how this feels. And does your brain and your heart send you different messages? One is your brain is telling you, maybe your heart's saying, I don't know about this, or I feel really great. And your brain's going, that's a bunch of, this is just a space. These are just people. Well, but we want to get those in line. So we want to help you trust what your heart's saying, what your feelings are. And that's why we want to give your conscious brain something to think about. So if we think about this energy that we feel, but we don't see, sometimes I call it emotional energy, or maybe you've heard people to refer to it as vibes. Somebody has good vibes or bad vibes. Well, that vibe is actually shortened for a vibration. It's the vibration that's really given off by a person or a thing that we're actually experiencing it. And it's actually been measured, just like chemical energy has been measured, mechanical energy has been measured, emotional energy has been measured. And so again, we give our logical brain this piece to understand. So in your play pages on page 3 was an energy funnel and an energy spiral. So I'm going to show my screen, if I remember, find it again. I'll bring up the image so that I can refer to it. Let me move things around a little bit. Okay. So we're going to start by looking at the energy funnel. And so if we look at the funnel across the top and you see the word expanded, and then as it gets narrower at the bottom, it's contracted. And we see on the left different words and numbers. So the words are different feelings we felt. Anything from shame up to anger, willingness, love, joy, peace, enlightenment. And the numbers are actually hertz, the measurement that was used. Um, yeah, the measurement used in identifying it. So if we look at those emotions, shame, guilt, grief, we might think, oh, those are bad feelings to have. They're not good. This is where we're going to ask you to suspend judgment again. Because in fact, feelings are information. We might label them as bad because they just don't feel good. But in fact, they're information. And if we can think of them as information, and if we know that there's other feelings higher up on the scale, then we can intentionally and consciously take actions toward moving up the scale if we want. There could be times when you might want to spend a moment or two in a certain feeling to get the depth of it and then to be able to move on. So there's lots of ways of managing that we're not going to go to right now. We just want to, help ourselves understand that there's different levels of these vibrations, different frequencies. The other thing in the context of emotions, they are information. They also change, right? Your emotions can change. You can go from being loving or accepting and something happen and maybe you drop down to anger, or grief or worry, or the opposite. You could be in a not so great mood and then someone says something, gives you a compliment, you read something, you're like, oh, I feel better. And so reminding ourselves feelings can change. They don't have to get stuck, but we're going to talk about also how do we get them unstuck when they do get stuck. Okay, so I'll continue on with talking now about the spiral. Again, I'll make sure we have time for questions, but if you have any questions in the meantime before I ask, please don't hesitate. So the energy spiral is similar but different, obviously. And what's interesting is it's showing, an expansion from a middle expansion up, and from the middle down, it's expanding down. So that's very different from a funnel. One of the reasons I like this spiral personally is that it has more of the words, the feelings that we experience in life. So from boredom in the middle, from positivity, showing contentment, belief, hopefulness, just many more words that, if we haven't had experience of really identifying feelings and knowing a full range, this gives us more options, if you will. And there's even more than what's on the spiral, right? And then going down from the middle, again, it's showing many of those feelings that I'm imagining we've all felt. So it's just a different perspective. The other thing I like about the spiral is I can think of it as a spiral staircase. So thinking of it as a staircase, if boredom in the middle is the first floor of a house or a building, and as you are literally walking up a spiral staircase, if there's windows, you get to go higher, you look out the windows, you can see more and more a different vantage place. And so, while this doesn't have the numbers, we know that frequency, that vibration is higher and it's actually more expansive. There's like more space within it because it's at that higher vibration. And at the bottom, if we start at the first floor of the house, we're going down the spiral staircase, then one thing is leading to another step leads to another step, and that energy is actually condensing. So going to that contracted sense, even though it's showing it's going out, it is actually more condensed. It's a sludgier, it's darker, energetically, if those are fair words to use. And so I describe it as a staircase because maybe that can help us think about there are literally steps I can take when I want to be at another level. Whether you're on the top half or somewhere on the bottom and you want to move up, there are literally steps you can take so that you can move in the direction that you want. I'll also say, because this little analogy came to me too, that sometimes if we're in this bottom half, sometimes I've had that feeling of I'm not just on the stairs, I'm in an elevator and somebody cut the cord and suddenly I'm at the very bottom. Right? Have you felt that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's when we can remind ourselves, okay, I'm not in an elevator, I can be on a staircase. So where am I? So the first thing you're going to ask is, where am I? And where do I want to be? And what are some steps I can take to get there? So that's like my way of looking at these two illustrations that are helping us get a sense of the energy we can feel but we don't see. So let me just ask the general question of questions or comments before we start talking more about some examples and moving through them. Okay, we're good. All right, I'll stop the screen share. Get back to seeing all of you.
Christine, I have a question.
Yeah.
So you're saying if you're in maybe the bottom half of this this drawing and you're identifying, okay, maybe that's not, maybe I'm irritated, right? And you're going to say, okay, so that's where I am right now, but what can I do to bring this up? So you stop right then in the moment and ask yourself that.
If you can, literally, and again, our brains might not want to, they might fight against us. And that's again where we have some techniques of what can we do to get ourselves, or whatever point you notice it and you have the time and desire to address it, because we're human. The reality is we're human, and so there could be times when, we don't really want to, but that's our resistance. And in the next few weeks, we'll keep talking about this. How do we not let ourselves stay stuck? And that's probably one of the trickiest things to do, of just, let our shoulders drop. But that's why we started even with the joy meditation, the joy list, the joy box. Those are concrete, tangible things you've acknowledged already to your consciousness. These are things that I know uplift me. And if you can take even a small step to get even close to feeling that feeling, you're one step closer. And that's what we want to do. We want to each time be able to, incrementally move it. And I'll also say that as humans, we are hardwired to notice negatives. And so it's not uncommon that one negative starts finding another negative, and it's like a magnet attracting other negatives. It's just the way we're hardwired. So we're always learning how to disconnect those magnets. They don't have to pull others with them. And again, it's just helping our brain remember that. So it's that getting our brain and our hearts aligned. Other questions before I continue on with kind of building off what Cynthia was asking? Okay, so let's walk through. Let's say you notice that you're in this place that you don't want to be. And again, it could be anywhere, because it could be, you're up somewhere in contentment and higher, but you want to be higher than that. You want more enthusiastic or something. So again, no judgment about where it is on the funnel or the spiral, whichever you're looking at. It's just if you want to move up. So once you become aware of what it is, remember that it's information only. And then think about, what do you want to feel? What is it that you want to feel? And so again, I like the charts because it can kind of give us the labels. If I want to move up to positivity, my brain has a sense of what that is. If I want to move, from anger to frustration, at least there's a difference. Can we discriminate that? Can we get a sense of, okay, if I'm even moving up a little bit, that's good. And being able to give yourself that positive reinforcement. So asking your brain a question is one of the best things you can do, because your brain is goal seeking and problem solving. Give it a problem to solve. So you can say, well, what is it that I want to feel? And if your brain refuses to answer, now we have to short circuit the brain that's stuck in this loop, because it's saying, no, I'm not answering. I'm stuck in this. So we want to interrupt it. So that's when we can use techniques like I mentioned in the email about moving and vocalizing. you know, get yourself back in your body, you know, tell your brain it has to shut down. So, but the vocalizing gets you out of your head so much. And I'll just share one fun way that I've used that helps me really get out of my brain when it is really stuck is I speak gibberish. Because when I'm speaking gibberish, there is no known word that's coming out of my mouth, and so my brain gets totally disconnected. That I find the most effective for truly interrupting my brain. And you can change your vocalization with that and have some fun with it. It for me has been effective. You're going to find what works for you, and that's kind of the tricky part. Giving yourself permission to try some different things. Some people like to interrupt the brain with breathing, you know, taking deep breaths or a certain breathing pattern that you do, because it literally then is also engaging the full body and gives you that ability to then shift literally physically energetically. Some people like to journal. You know, it's a way to let emotions that maybe you don't even know what they are, you know, come out on paper. You just start letting yourself write and write whatever words and, you know, with whatever hardness of a pen or anything like that. Some people like to talk to someone, vent. So the one thing to remember with venting and talking to someone is if that starts to build negativity versus venting and then problem solving, getting to the what do I really want to do. So that one is just the reminder that sometimes once we start talking about a frustrating event, if we forget our focus, it could just build on it and not necessarily help you at that moment. But so in asking questions of your brain, you know, one question I mentioned was, how do I want to feel? Another question you can ask your brain is, what will help me get unstuck? So that's kind of asking a more open-ended question. What will help me? And again, if it refuses, you know, do what you can at the moment or just let it sit in the background. Another question you could ask yourself is, it starts with what if, and you fill in the blank. So it can be, a what if I could just step away from this for 1 minute? Set your timer or something. You know, what if I could take one step right now to feel different? What could I do? So being able to ask your brain some of these questions can help it in that stuckness. So there's a few techniques. Let me ask if there are techniques that some of you have used that you might want to share.
I often sleep on it. If I'm in that stuck place, especially if I'm angry or hurt and I'm ruminating about something, you know, it's going round and round and round. I'm doing the dishes and I'm still thinking about it. I'll stop and I'll say, you know, I need to sleep on this. And usually when I go to bed and I sleep, when I get up the next day, I've already come up with a solution. You know,
Great.
just taking a time out and sleep on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it does help.
Good. Thank you.
I do my gratitude every morning. I wake up 15 minutes early every morning. But when I find that if I'm spiraling, something has bothered me, I go back to my gratitude. I repeat what I said in the morning and try to, draw myself out of the situation.
Great. And gratitude is one of the things we'll be talking about next week too. So you'll probably have some good insights for us. Thank you, Jody.
Well, I actually tried that vocalization because I was out raking leaves, and since the weather's been so nice, I've been raking and you know, just someday it's going to get cold. Today it did get cold, so but anyway, but I was finding myself like fretting about things or just was feeling kind of negative, and so then I started humming. And just humming then, like, yeah, it just lightened my spirits, and so that really worked.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are the little things we can do. And, on one particular day, one may work a little more easily than another. It's like giving yourself permission, non-judgment. It is what it is. And take a deep breath.
Mhm.
It too can pass, because sometimes it is helpful for us to allow some things in the background to ruminate, um, to get a deeper understanding. And so, whatever that means for you, and since we're all unique, it's going to be some trial and error to find out what works for you. But I hope you've gotten a few good starters for now. So, once you've gotten yourself unstuck, that's when then you think about, well, so what action can I take to do this movement? So, as we say through the class, we'll talk about some different techniques. For tonight, we've talked about the joy meditation, the joy box, the joy list. So it's connecting to your joy. Or maybe it's just giving yourself permission to do something you don't normally do. So it doesn't have to be directly connected to joy. Sometimes I just like a good scone from the neighborhood bakery. Um, and so I can do that. Or today I decided to go for a swim late morning. I trying to get back into a practice of swimming, and um, the local Y pool is small, and I went, I'm just going to go to the natatorium and have a good swim. Got my timing right, so it was really nice. So what are those things that you can do at those times where you really want to nurture your joy, nurture who you are as the wonderful person that you are? So other things we can do in terms of our thoughts. So it's similar but different from what we've been talking about. And one of the little quotes I included in the play pages was that thoughts are seeds. So are we planting and nurturing the weeds or the flowers? So again, how does our brain naturally function? Our brain probably naturally functions on that negative. What are the things that aren't going so well? But maybe you're the person that you do see things through the rose-colored glasses. You naturally and easily see the silver lining on a cloud. But if you're not, we want to be able to nurture that, or you want to make sure you maintain those ways of always seeing the positives. So, are you familiar with the terms affirmations and mantras?
Yes.
Okay. So, those are things that you can have handy. You can make part of your daily routine. Affirmations are those positive statements that we may not fully believe in at this moment, and yet we want to entrain the brain and let it know that, yeah, we're giving it permission to feel joyful, or to be calm, or to be confident in that situation that you might not always be confident in. So there are many resources online with affirmations. Some of them, give you the list of affirmations you can use, and you can use those. Other sources will say, well, it's good if you create your own affirmation because it is very personal. So again, if you want to explore any of those and have conversations, I'm happy to. There's lots of information. It sounds like most of you are familiar with that. So as I was thinking about the affirmations and mantras, I thought, well, what's really the difference? Because there might be times I repeat phrases and I think of it more of as a mantra, but then I look at lists of affirmations, it seems like they're on an affirmation list. So technically, again, my logical brain always wants to understand these things. So technically, a mantra has a vibrational, like chanting to it, to put you in a different state. Um, and I know a few of those. I do those less often than just the phrases I might say. Um, like I might say, I have been led, I am led, I will be led. So that reminds myself that there's past, present, and future. And in my way of living, there are connections I'm going to make with people, and things are going to happen so that those connections can happen easily. Um, so whatever way you want to look at affirmations, mantras, again, it's that conscious effort engaging our brains, so that we can connect to our heart, because we're asking our heart through all of this, how do we really want to feel? And so not only is your brain coming up with the placement or the word, but it's connecting that heart and feeling it at the same time, that then together they're helping you take that next step. I've been rambling a bit there. So other experiences or ways that you manage your thoughts?
I always ask if it's mine to own, if there's some issue going on. Is this mine to own and resolve?
Mm-hmm.
Is it something that I need to, that won't be resolved by me, but I send it up to a higher source and ask for help there? Something out of my control.
Yeah, good. Yeah, and that's going to lead us up to, we have energy and other people have energy. So sometimes we're picking up others' energies, right? So let's go there. So when we've been talking about emotions, we've said that, and energy, everything's energy. Our feelings aren't good or bad, our emotions aren't good or bad, they just are, and they change. And that's always the good news. They can change. Each one of us has our own energy. And so, again, non judgment. So, if you're in part of the downward part, you don't really want to be there, and you have your energy and it's vibrating out, well, it just is what it is. And we're each responsible for our own energy. So, even if somebody picks up our energy, it's really not our fault. No blame, no judgment. It just is what happens. And we are always looking at how can we, be where we are and being present fully. And, when we want to move on to another place, how do we get there? So then others' energies are what they are. And that's what Cynthia's referring to. Maybe you've picked up something that isn't yours. And sometimes it's hard to distinguish. And so it could be where it's that period of time and you realize once you leave that place, or, you're able to turn the channel on the television set, or, something else. It's like, oh, this is how I really feel. Go outside, get a fresh breath of fresh air. And you realize, oh, okay, I'm feeling better. Because sometimes physical spaces, can hold that energy. Sorry, my brain was just jumping to when I said physical spaces can hold energy. Some of you know my apartment had been under renovation for many, many months. And I was living in it through part of that time. And there were some days it's just like, oh, I would be so glad the painters were gone, because the energy that they had was just not energy that I liked. And so I have some techniques that I use of just, even imagining the energy dissipating, or, I like to do something fun in my space, or there's different things to help bring back the energy that I like to be living in. So you never know when these things are going to happen, and just know that it's part of the normal experience. So again, why we're giving the conscious brain something to be aware of, so that we don't learn these things, most of us, as we're growing up. And so I'm so excited that you're here tonight. We're talking about these things. So that's kind of the connection to, as we think about holidays in particular, whether, you may already be aware of, there might be some bad vibes. Again, non-judgmental, but some of those different vibes that you don't really enjoy being around, or if there's people or situations, those are things you can start as, actually, we're kind of wrapping up the content I was planning to cover tonight. So we'll be going into next week more with what are those situations? What are those roadblocks, the things that kind of catch us in our tracks? Or if you think of it as a river and you're navigating down the river, this boulder, okay, you don't want to hit that boulder, so how do you navigate around? We'll be able to start talking through what are some of those things for you that might bring up some of these reactions, or how do you anticipate and avoid reacting, because you'll be able to be more solid in your space of joy. So I feel like I've gotten in my head, so I feel a need to shake a bit. If you have been listening too long and want to do that too. it could be a combination of our timing. I'm feeling a little awkward about timing, but at the same time, I'm going to give you back some time. So I hope you'll be excited. And with missing it, another person in some of this just the amount of conversation we have, which is all good. Um, so in kind of summarizing today, our focus around the joy, what are some things that, with the joy box, the joy list you can do, and starting to be more aware of what's your brain telling you and what's your heart telling you, and how much are they in connection. So how do we keep that conscious brain engaged? If it gets stuck, we can get it unstuck in many different ways. And just with your intention to be at a different place, and your attention that you give to it is really the combined magic that can happen. So I also want to let you know about 2 services that I'm going to offer to you as part of the class that could support you through jumpstarting your joy. And one is, if you want to have a conversation one-on-one, I'll do what I'm kind of calling a coaching, but I don't consider myself the experienced coach that over time would be a coach for someone. However, I have some coaching experience, and on a one-on-one to look at a particular thing that's bringing up some concern for you, something you want to be able to work through. So I'm happy to have a one-on-one 25-minute conversation about something in particular you want to talk through. And I would give you kind of a guide sheet of a few things to think about and let me know in advance so we can really maximize the use of that time. I'm happy to do that anytime during this month of November. So even though the class finishes on the 22nd, up through the end of the month. And then the other thing is that some of you are familiar with the fact that I do what's called integrative alignment energy work. So with that work, just to briefly describe it, we're working with both the conscious and the subconscious mind. The conscious mind to be able to identify what's troubling, and then the subconscious mind is because the subconscious is always working in the background. And sometimes it holds those stuck places, the limiting beliefs, the things that, keep us stuck in a place that we don't really want to be. And that in using some techniques that I've been trained to do, we can identify what those stuck places are. And then I can energetically release them so that it then gives you that space and that ability to, look at a particular situation differently or have a different sense about things. So if you would like to do that, I offer either a one-time, service or a package of 3. The fee is typically $65. You get $10 off of that if you do a one-time. If you want to book a package of 3, it typically already is discounted $20 from if you bought them individually, but I'll take another $10 off of that. So it'd be $165. So if you wanted to do integrative alignment, again, scheduling that sometime in this month of November. And of course, that's available anytime, even after the class. But that would just be an extra little discount as participating in the class if you want to do that. And with the email that I'll send out tomorrow morning with the recording of the class and a separate recording of the meditation, I'll include an attachment that describes integrative alignment a little bit more if you want to reference that. So a couple other little gifts to you as participants of the class. So
that's very generous of you to offer those things.
Well, thank you. And my intention is I really do love to support folks in, moving through whatever is challenging them. And so I'm also very grateful that you're investing this time and spending it taking the class. So before we fully wrap up, questions, comments?
Yes. May I get the playbook? I don't see it in any of my emails, and I don't have it. May I get that, please?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. I'll send you a special email tonight. I'm so sorry. That should have
Thank
come
you.
with the last email a week ago. It's just a couple Word documents. But I'll
Thank you so
send it
much.
away. Yeah, thank you. Sorry you didn't have it. How about if we, oh, go ahead, Laura.
Yeah, I just wanted to share something that kind of goes in line with the joy list, I think. And I think it was Jody who mentioned about gratitude, too. I'd gone through a time where I was encouraged to each day write down at least one good thing that happened that day. And like I say, so some of the days, like it was really hard to even think of one thing. But like that was a way um, to get me to think of like, yeah, my life isn't as bad as I may think it is, that there's always, you can always find something good if you look for it. And so like I say, I think that kind of ties in with that joy list.
Hmm. Yes, definitely.
I do the gratitude thing too daily, but I have to get to 5.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk more about gratitude next week. I'm really excited that some of you already are doing that. So you'll have some good personal experience to share with that. So it can be really helpful. And even in the middle of the day, to notice, oh, have I gone this far or what is it? So again, if you just feeling like you want to lighten up a little bit.
Christine, I don't know if everybody's had your individual sessions, but I can certainly speak to, having that sounding board, to kind of empty the pot a little bit, someone to go to who's, completely objective and emptying that. And then the energy work that you do is so calming. So in the front end of a session, it's emptying the pot and saving those things to just get it off your chest. But then you do that energy work, and it's just so incredibly calming. It's a real gift. So if anybody has not undergone the individual work that Christine does, I encourage you to give it a try. It's very enlightening too, very insightful work. But that brings joy, being able to empty the pot and then feel that sense of calm. And I solve a lot of problems when I can get myself to that place of calm. Suddenly an idea comes to me, how to get out of a situation, or how to change gears in a situation. So even driving home after a session, my brain starts to kick in with solutions. So I would encourage anybody to consider it for sure.
Thank you, Carol. And just to tag on to that, as she mentioned driving home, so up until now, I've been doing them primarily in person, and now I'm adding the Zoom option. So if the distance, as I know, would be a challenge for some of you, but even within the Cleveland area, if you prefer to do it from your home, it can be just as effective. If you're a person that prefers to be in person, in the energy work, there's a little bit of hands on, but you're always fully clothed on a massage table. Um, and and yet I'm playing the music in the background and things that create that ambiance that, again, for some folks that may be a preference, and for others it might be you enjoy being in the comfort of your home and then you won't have travel time. So I'm in Lakewood, so whatever might work for you if you decide you'd like to try that. So how about if we say the word joy a few times in different vocalizations, however you want to say joy. Let's just kind of use it as an affirmation, a mantra, a chant as we wrap up our session tonight. Joy, joy, joy,
Joy.
joy,
Joy.
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 Joy to the world.
joy, joy, joy,
Joy.
joy. You can shout it from the rooftops. You can say joy anytime. So that's just one of those playful, lighthearted things. If you can adopt a playful perspective as you think about joy, for me, that's a connecting place. And yet, my work is around laughter and joy. So, I think that kind of pulls them together. So I'll stay on and allow you to just click off whenever you want. But I do thank you very much for joining the class and for participating tonight. Next week, we'll be talking, as we say, about gratitude. We'll talk about the roadblocks, how to navigate, and keep moving through this so you can have the best days and holidays ever.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good night.
Nice
Good
to meet
night,
you.
everybody.
Yeah.
Have a good one. See you next week.
See you
Same
next week.
time, same place. Oh.